And pregnancy is a thing of joy. But Sara never imagined that it would be the doorway to her greatest heartbreak. When she told Trevor she was pregnant, his first response was not joy. It was just indescribable anger, as if he hadn't wanted such a level of commitment with her. The families met, elders spoke, decisions were made. There would be a wedding. Sara convinced herself this was destiny. Trevor was quiet, ambitious, and came from a respectable home. The future looked bright on paper. Then the call came. It was a strange number, a woman's voice, amused. "I just thought you should know," the woman said. "Your fiancé has been staying with me. He left my bed this morning to come to you." Sara felt faint. She asked the woman to repeat herself, hoping she had heard wrong. But the woman repeated every detail, dates, nights, familiar habits. When Sara confronted Trevor, she expected denial, tears, shame. What she got was rage. He shouted, accused her of disrespect. There was no apology. Soon his parents arrived. They begged. Yes, she was a woman who had helped their son when he had nothing. But Sara was the one he had chosen to marry. The message was clear: endure it. Sara looked at her growing belly and swallowed her pride. So they got married. Then came Japa, an opportunity to relocate to the UK, the hope of a fresh start, better life, greener pastures. Sara's parents sold what they had to make it happen: plane tickets, visa fees, settling costs. They all traveled together. But the moment they landed, Trevor shed his mask. He became harsh. He shouted over small things, complained a lot. Sara became pregnant again. She carried the burden while Trevor went back to school. She paid for his fees, the bills, and the rent. She worked so that he could excel in life. When Trevor finally got a job, Sara stepped back to raise the children. She believed sacrifice was temporary. She believed marriage was endurance. Then one evening, everything cracked. Trevor was in the shower when his phone rang. Sara picked it. A woman's name flashed across the screen. Messages came. A thriving relationship in another city. When she confronted him, there was no explanation. He simply packed a bag and walked out. Just like that, he closed the door to his marriage. Sara sat alone in the quiet flat, surrounded by silence and regret. She replayed her life like a cruel film. She had married him when he had nothing. She had been the breadwinner for years. She had paid for the relocation to the UK. She had carried the home while he built himself. She had become invisible so he could shine. And now she was alone in a foreign land. 3 young children, no partner, no plan. Only questions. Was love ever there? Was endurance a mistake? Was Japa an escape or a trap? She stared out the window at a country that promised opportunity but delivered loneliness. For the first time, Sara asked herself a question she had avoided for years. What happens when a woman sacrifices everything and still loses the man she saved?
The night Trevor left, Sara did not sleep. She lay on the bed they had both shared, staring into the dark while the children slept. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. She had fears of tomorrow, of bills she hadn't planned for. Fear of becoming a single parent, alone in a foreign land. She replayed the last conversation again and again, searching for the moment she could have said something different, done something better, loved harder, endured more. By morning, reality settled heavily on her chest. This was no misunderstanding or temporary separation. This was abandonment. And for the first time in years, Sara allowed herself to feel anger, the kind she had been taught to swallow in the name of peace, patience, and prayer. Days turned into quiet battles as she faced the turbulence of her new life. School runs in the cold, doctor appointments she attended alone, bills stacked neatly on the table. She smiled for her children and broke in private. Some nights she cried herself to sleep, careful not to wake them. She doubted herself. Maybe the in-laws were right. Maybe marriage was endurance. Maybe she should have turned a blind eye. Maybe she asked for too much respect, loyalty, kindness. His mother's voice echoed in her mind. Men will be men. Marriage is not happiness. You endure for the children. Eventually, Sara called home. Her parents listened quietly as she poured her heart out. There was no blame nor any lectures from them. No, we warned you. Only love from parents who had sacrificed everything.
That day, Sara made a decision. She would no longer beg for love. She would no longer negotiate her dignity. She would fight for stability, for sanity, for her children. She sought help. Legal advice she was afraid to hear. Community support she didn't know existed. Women who looked like her, sounded like her, and had survived storms just as violent. And for the first time since Trevor left, she realized something powerful. She was not alone. Sara began to reclaim her voice. She stopped apologizing for existing, stopped shrinking herself to keep the peace. She returned to work, started small, built slowly. There were days she doubted herself, days she was exhausted. But every paycheck reminded her of a truth she had forgotten. She had always been capable. People began to call her by her name again, not Trevor's wife, just Sara. Her children became her anchors. Every laugh reminded her why she needed to be strong. She was no longer surviving, she was living for legacy. Because love that demands your silence is not love. Marriage that survives only on endurance is a prison. And Japa, escape, does not heal wounds you refuse to face. And that made her unstoppable. Sara did not rise loudly. She rose quietly, steadily. When Trevor left Sara, he believed he was choosing happiness. The other woman made life feel exciting. Fast money, soft living, endless praise. She fed his ego and made him feel like the man he always imagined himself to be. What Trevor didn't know was that admiration without character is always borrowed. Slowly his savings disappeared. She encouraged risks, introduced him to opportunities. Loans followed, then debts. The day the money ran out, the love evaporated. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. The woman who once adored him disappeared, taking everything with her. Trevor was left with silence and shame. Friends stopped returning his calls. Opportunities dried up. In his lowest moments, Trevor thought of Sara, her steadiness, her sacrifices, the home he walked away from without looking back. Months later he returned, empty, with apologies. She listened quietly. She asked one question. "Are you back because you love me, or because you have nowhere else to go?" Trevor had no answer. So Sara chose herself, because sometimes a man doesn't miss you because he loves you. He misses you because life stopped working without you. And sometimes the real escape is choosing yourself.